So, Nicole, how are you doing today?
I'm doing better than I was last week.
Okay. You want to talk about it a little more?
I had to take like a week off. I had a friend, a service member, a veteran, take his life. And I've also been dealing with some personal struggles, as well as taking over the organization. We are now a fully independent organization. So it kind of just felt like the roof came down all at once, and just kind of had to take a step back and, like I say here, recalibrate and rise, and reach out, to support and meet with my providers, and calm my nervous system a little bit so I could show up for the mission, because I serve people all day long, and I can't do that. I can't pour from an empty cup.
For sure.
You can, but it's painful and it's not sustainable.
Absolutely.
So to, resist the urge to, power through, there are times for that, but this was an emotional toll that I had to let my body just take a break.
I'm sorry to hear about the loss, and I'm amazed and proud of you for being able to take that time for yourself to work on yourself, recalibrate, to get back in the fight. And then, like we talked on your episode or on your podcast, as Jocko would say, good that all those challenges happened to you. And it just shows that you're on the right path and you're about to have a come up, because you're getting faced with all these challenges and adversity. So how are you going to do it? You took a step back, you recalibrated yourself, you worked on yourself, and now you're ready to get back out there. So good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I like you grow through what you go through.
Absolutely.
So that's what happened. A lot of synchronicities have come from it. Because I took that time, I was able to come back to the root of myself. And I found that there were some systems that I wasn't utilizing anymore. And the systems that I was using were not as efficient. So I've started over with some new systems and, shifted the ones that I was using and really trying to implement them daily. Like Jocko, like discipline is the way, right? So being consistent with all of that, restructuring the systems is huge for me, because routine, I don't fare very well outside of routine. It is, it's paramount.
Absolutely. And complacency kills. So gratefully, you didn't stay complacent with continuing the same routine of showing up for work and pouring from that empty cup. Again, you stepped away, reset. And I would like to say, you didn't start over. You picked up where you left off, but you used different tools. So you're not starting over each time. It may feel that way, but that's just our brain and the way that we were trained to think. Now you got to recognize, like, look, I didn't start over. You picked yourself up so much faster. Look at the growth you had.
That's resiliency.
Exactly.
It's getting up faster every time you fall.
Absolutely.
This probably was the fastest I've had a turnaround. I mean, I've faced a lot of falls, and this actually, I'm proud of myself for it. I kind of surprised myself a little bit. And I'm like, I am a lot stronger than I give myself credit for. And I think that's true for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I actually said that I was on a Codependence Anonymous meeting last night. I do a weekly CODA meeting with an alumni group from one of my treatment centers I went to 5 years ago. And same group of people, 5 years long. We know each other really well. And I was leaving here after the podcast last night. And I was just like, glowing. And I was like, and this, and then this. And I'm like, and then this happened. And I said something. And they're like, because I got on I got on the call late, the Zoom meeting late. And they're like, they call me Nikki, because that's who I used to go by a long time ago. They're like, Nikki, you missed the reading at the beginning. They're like, everything you just said was from the reading. And I was like, there's another synchronicity. And it's cool because that, that shows me that I'm exactly where I need to be, where I'm supposed to be. And that just gives me, more faith in what I'm trying to pursue here, and know that I can endure this, knowing that I don't need to know what the outcome is. I just know that I'm on the right track. I'm sailing that way. And I like the quote that says, if you don't know which direction you're sailing, no wind is favorable. So I know that I'm sailing in the right direction, and I have the wind behind me, And I might hit some rocky shoals along the way, but, you know, I was on a ship for a long time. I know how to shoal that up.
Awesome. That's amazing. So how did you celebrate that victory, that win for you? Recognizing how fast you got back out there and that you are on the right path. How have you dedicated to supporting yourself?
Well, that's a great question. And somebody recently asked me or sent me an email when I told them I was an independent organization now. They're like, wow, girl, have you taken a moment to let that settle in and congratulate yourself? And then there was like all the, balloon emojis and stuff. And I was like, I really haven't. But my chief of staff, she writes on the board weekly wins, so we have to celebrate the weekly wins. So every week I start over and this is what's happening this week. So I have to give myself some credit for all the hard work that, not only myself, but my team and everybody, all my volunteers are doing. Otherwise, my head's just down all the time and I can't see up from there. And that's where you start to drown. You forget the why. And I don't know what a celebration looks like for me right now. I know that I found a lot of gratitude last night when I journaled. And when I woke up this morning, it gave me more purpose, a newfound vision for what's happening here. There's a lot of moving parts right now. And I'm like, we can just chip away at it one thing at a time. And in my little respite that I took, there were some things that I had to take away. So there was a lot of restructuring and processing happening. It takes a lot of effort. And I guess I'm not waiting for somebody else to celebrate me. So I need to show up for me.
Absolutely.
How do you celebrate yourself? Your small wins.
Wow, you're going to turn. That's something I need to get better at, right? As you were talking, I remembered a great piece of advice I got when I threw my first event, that in the middle of it, when you feel like everything's going wrong or everything's going right, whichever way, take a second and pause and appreciate everything that's going on and recognize that it's you that made all of this happen. Everyone here is just here having a good time. They don't know what vendor didn't show up. They don't know what's going wrong. They don't know anything other than what they're enjoying and seeing and having a good time. So in that moment, you need to pause and recognize and be grateful and appreciate yourself, right? I feel like we could take that into every day, just how we're talking right now, that just for this podcast, I need to pause and recognize, like, I got a great opportunity to come here to the Defender's Den to record a podcast with you. We're going to be at the Patriot All-America. All these little things that we're doing, although I may not be at the goal that I want, I got to stop forgetting and remember that each ladder rung is a step, an achievement, and I do need to pause and celebrate. So I was trying to learn from you by asking how you celebrate you.
Well, back in the day, I would probably go get a celebratory drink, but that no longer serves me. Trying to find some fun and joy in my life today. Finding my pumpkin, as Diana Crane would say. I'm still searching for that. And after yesterday's episode with Paws, Pups and Warriors side by side, I really want to get a service animal. Okay. And so on Sunday, I'm going to go to the American Legion Post 2 for their little graduation and meet some of the animals and some of their platoon. And I think that's what I want to do for myself. I think I deserve that. So
absolutely.
I had a friend recently, and we're not really talking right now, but she's like, you're working yourself way too hard and I see you're burning out. She's like, I don't want this for you. I know that you believe in your cause and everything. She goes, but people don't see, what I see, like how, sometimes I'll fall apart. I might cry. And, it's overwhelming at times. And she's like, people don't see that. They don't see, what it takes behind the camera or, behind the whole big show out there. When we're networking and everything, you got to show up, you got to be on, you got to wear the garb and the pins and the smiles and celebrate other people. And then when you come home, if you're alone, that's even worse, because then you're left alone with your thoughts and your doubts, and you're like, I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And I can't afford to do that today. I don't deserve that for myself. I need to be kinder to myself. So I do I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of heart holding and remind myself that I am loved, if not by anyone, but by myself, that I care for me, I show up for me, and I try to take care of myself the best I can, vitamins, supplements, whole food, plant-based diet, walking, exercise. Those are ways I show self-love and self-care. And I think getting a service animal will be more advantageous for me to get me out there and finding I don't know how to have fun very much, everything is has work tied to it. I'm how can this be good for work? How can I and it's always, trying to sponsor this place it's a lot. I mean, it's my mission. It's my goal. It's my love right now. And I would not want to be doing anything else.
Absolutely. So there's a couple things I want to say. One, being alone is better than being with the wrong person. And maybe at this time, being alone is exactly what you need because it's going to help you find yourself. And you have a lot of moving parts, right? You became, what is it called? You're your own organization now.
Yeah, independent organization.
You're an independent organization. You're trying to find sponsors. You're trying to work through what you're going through, all while being an entrepreneur and building and going after your passion. I had a long conversation with a buddy on the way here, and he reminded me that sometimes we just got to move in complete silence. Like, I understand where your friend's coming from, and she could be right. Like, you are getting burnt out. She doesn't want this for you. But that's also part of the grind and the hustle that we have to go through in order to grow to where we need to be or want to be. So make sure when you share your information with people, you're sharing it with people that have the same vision or the ability to see a larger picture. Because if you're telling, personally, if I tell my friends and family what I want or where I want to go, they're going to put up their guards and slow me down because they don't have that vision. They're scared for you. So they're trying to protect you by telling you everything that could or would or will go wrong or how that's not feasible. But that's because they're not brave enough to step up like you've stepped up.
Thank you. And I think it's just some people want a simpler life. And I've never had a simple life. So it's not that I don't want to say thrive in chaos or anything, but
you thrive in chaos.
Yeah, I guess that's and some people just don't want that for themselves.
Absolutely.
But that's, my ADHD brain or trauma response in life and how my nervous system is attuned to the world. And this is my alignment here. This is what I know I can do. This is how I just neurodivergently, this is how I see things happening. And I can't do a lot of other things. This is where my brain works best. And it's crazy. There's another synchronicity that you were saying. I was listening to a podcast on the way to work, and don't tell your dreams and everything to people who can't handle it or who would offer up doubt. Maybe it's concern, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's whatever the fuck. I don't know. But it's not, I can't afford to put all of my stuff on. I choose not to tell people too much about what I'm doing because I know they're never going to understand me and what I'm going after. They can't see, what my heart is saying to me.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying hard to listen to myself. So there's no way they can't fathom what's going on up here. It's pretty intense. So if I introduce that doubt into me and I entertain it, it's going to take me out. I don't have time for that. So if I want to share something, I'll share something with you because I know you're after the same kind of goals. We have the same kind of, mission. And
we see the bigger
I think that's
picture.
why this relationship didn't work out because we're just leading two different lives. And I guess there's a safety net that a lot of people want to have or need to have, and that's okay. I understand that. Because right now I'm in a position where most people wouldn't want to be in. It's scary financially, personally, and for my organization. I don't have any dependents, so I understand how some people need that security because they're looking after family members or what have you. But I don't have that. And it's probably why I don't have an animal yet because I didn't have anything. So maybe that's what I'm looking to is have something be a little more grounding for myself and not get so caught up in things. And because I do work since I wake up until I go to sleep. And it's probably not as productive as I'd like it to be. That's why I'm restructuring my systems so I can be more productive, more time efficient. And so I'm just learning a lot. I'm, self-educating myself, and yeah.
What positive have you found from this breakup? And this is not to bash your ex. This is a personal growth.
No, I would never. It wasn't. It was a lot of me. It was a lot of what came up for me, and how I responded to situations. So, I learned a lot from it. Actually, again, I said that on the CODA meeting last night. I was like, I really took a lot away from it. I found out what I still need to work on, where I still put more value on things that no longer serve me, and how I treat people, how I tell my story, what I withhold from things because I'm scared of, truly showing up authentically in a relationship, allowing someone to fully see me, taking off the costume and bearing it all out there. And I finally did at the end, but it was too late. And then you're like, damn, but it's okay because I don't think it would have worked out anyway because, I'm this big dreamer and some people just can't handle that.
Have you ever thought when you start feeling that pain I see in your eyes, instead of following the pain, follow the greatness, and instead of saying, man, I wish this or that or whatever's hurting you, say, I'm so thankful for this because it did teach me about myself. And although you may think this was supposed to be your forever person, or maybe you didn't, right? But this is your chapter that you've been able to now switch a page, and now you're going into a different gear, and you're about to become a different version of you that you never thought was possible. But you do all thanks to the pain and suffering you went through from this relationship.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I learned a lot from the individual and from all the situations that occurred. And, boundaries. Gotta have boundaries.
And those are tough to instill, especially after going so long without them.
Yeah. And I thought I was ready. I took a 2-year sabbatical from relationships, and I went on a spiritual journey. I moved down to Arizona, and then I was like, man, I feel great. I'm ready to introduce something back into my life. And I wasn't ready. But now I know what to do when I do go back out there. I think I was really excited to get back out there, and so it was too much too fast. And the first thing I said, I was like, okay, there's no trauma bonding on this one. Don't go into it and tell your whole story all up front. So I didn't. So I spread it out. I have a lot of trauma, a lot of PTSD, a lot of bad stuff that happened. And I'm like, you can't just dump that on somebody at the beginning, right? So I kind of doled it out in pieces. And that, it wasn't... I think some people just want that, and I couldn't do that. And so it took too long for the other person to get to know me. And I don't know how it's going to work. I think maybe the other person needs to be in a healing journey as well to understand. So maybe that's...
Well, supposedly scientifically, we are attracted to people in the same mental state that we are in. So if you're going through it and struggling, the person you're going to find is going through it and struggling, right?
But it didn't feel like that. There wasn't any of that at the beginning. It wasn't like we found broken people. We found people who were optimistic and who had heard of all the acronyms and the big scientific words that are in the healing community. So I was like, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. It felt right. And maybe it was right. Maybe it was what I needed to go through and the person I was supposed to meet at the time. And I think we both took away something and learned from it. And something both came up for us that we could work on or had to take a step back and nurture. And that's okay, I have no ill regard whatsoever. It was very painful, and I think it was mostly painful for myself because I found the pieces of myself that still needed some love. The parts of me that hadn't had a seat at the table and hadn't had a voice in a while were screaming, and so I've been focusing there on those misaligned parts.
So good. I'm glad you went through that because it's what you needed, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like that in the time, but there will be a time that you're going to be able to reflect back on this and be truly grateful for it. And I don't think you'll ever be ready for a relation. Anybody is ever ready for a relationship. We may think we are, we may believe it. However, relationships take a lot of work.
I wasn't ready for a relationship. I was ready to get back out in the dating field. And then it was like the first one. I was like, this is my person. Or I don't know. But I understand what you're saying.
So let's just dive into your story now. Can you tell me a little bit about your childhood, what that was like?
Oh, wow. I'm number 6 of 8 children. My mom married my dad when she had 3 little ones. She had a 3, 2, and 1-year-old. And, we're all 7 of us were raised in the same house. And both my parents worked a lot. Had to bring up 7 kids, 6 brothers. My sister's the oldest. And my parents were both raised on farms out in this small town, and they met, through their families, both big families. They're both one of 8 and 13 children. So, there was a lot going on there. I have a huge amount of cousins, like over 100, and like over 20 nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews. I probably have 30 now. I don't know. I just went home and I was like, these kids were this tall, and last time I saw them, now they're up here and graduating and having babies of their own and everything. So childhood was crazy. Childhood was crazy. I had some trauma there, more than a lot. And I didn't really know the full effects of it until I got out of the service, and then all of that shit came up. But I went to therapy when I was younger. My parents got divorced when I was in 5th grade. So I went to a lot of schools and stuff during that whole thing, and custody battles, and it sucked, The family was all split apart, and then my parents got remarried, or my mom got remarried, and she got a big house, and then all the older kids came back, and the custody split. The kids who didn't want to be with my dad ended up moving back in with my mom, and it was wild. Like, all of them were back at my mom's house. And then my mom had a baby at 43. So we're all, 13 and up, and then she had a baby with her new husband. And my sister's married, and she moved back in the house. My brothers went out the Job Corps, then they came back to the house, and they were either on drugs or whatever. I have a big brother. He looks like The Rock. He's just, tall, dark, and handsome. He's got all the tattoos and everything. And they're all UFC or MMA fighters and shit. So there was just fighting and constant just stress. And my mom was working her ass off, and so was my stepdad. And I came down from upstairs one day, and my brother had a baby. When my mom had her baby, my brother had a baby the same time. My little brother and my nephew are 12 hours apart. So my brother is his uncle by 12 hours. So they came up as twins. And so they were in the house together for a while. And I came down from upstairs one day, and I come down into the kitchen, and it was dinner time, and everybody's down there. And my mom looks at me. She's like, I said, where's my dinner? Is there anything left for me? And she's like, oh, Nick, I forgot you were here. And I remember that very vividly. And I have, I got picked on a lot, a lot. I got beat up and tied up and locked up and tortured. And, one of my half brothers decided to, had one of those things happen to me, and that's what got me into therapy. And then he went away, and then, it kind of just destroyed my family for a while. And then I felt less than and left out, and the lost child and all of those things. So when I was 13, I was started, self-harming and thinking about ending it all and everything. And my dad, he had me and my little brother on the weekends once in a while and stuff. And he came over and he took me away from that house, and it pissed my mom off pretty good. But my dad saved my life. He took me out of that home, and he raised me up from there. And you know, he was disciplined more, and he was, you know, stricter. So that's why the other two brothers moved back in with my mom. And then I had, you know, all that time with my dad. I got my car with him, my first car. He taught me how to drive, and I graduated high school because of him. I'm his only child to graduate high school, the only one to go to college and military. So, you know, I started fucking around when I was 18 after high school with, you know, I started touching on drugs and stuff, and I had my car, so I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and he shipped me off to Alaska. He's like, you are not doing this shit. He's like, I'm not having it. So my sister, a lot of my family is from Alaska. My grandparents were up there, my aunts and uncles and stuff. So he shipped me off to Alaska to live with my sister. And that was the summer of 2001. So in that time, my grandma was dying of breast cancer. And, you know, all the family was flying up there to see her and helping take care of her and stuff. And my dad had me in and out of recruiter centers since I was like 15. So I was taking care of my aunt's children while my aunt was taking care of my grandma. And it was fun for a while, you know, just being free away from home. And, you know, of course I was selling weed with my cousin and stuff, and like working at KFC and Safeway and shit. And I was just like trying to make ends meet. I bought a 1981 Camaro T-top that I had to dig out of the snow up there, and with my sister and my brother-in-law, and they helped me find that car, and we were fixing it up and stuff. And then my grandma, you know, took a turn, and she really wanted me to join the service, and my dad really wanted me to join. And then 9/11 happened, and I just was primed up for it. So, and I was working in the mall. My sister had a small business there, and I was talking to recruiters in there for a while too. And then the towers fell, and I just signed up and rolled up the next year.
What a story. And first, I just want to say I'm sorry you had to go through all that, and it's not your fault. You didn't deserve it, but you are worthy, and you are loved and cared about, and you deserve all the happiness that you dream of and chase. And I'm going to cry for you. It's okay. But you are worthy. And again, I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm grateful you're here. And thank you for sharing that story, because you being strong enough to share that story is going to help so many people that hear this that have gone through similar things or anything like that. So I appreciate you, and I applaud your strength.
Thank you. It took a long time to get here.
I imagine.
A really long time. I'm actually not feeling like it's really attached to me any longer. I have processed a lot of my trauma. I've gone through a lot of treatment centers. I've done a lot of personal growth work and a lot of self-education. And I listen to appropriate content that helps me every day. I go to weekly meetings. I go to daily meetings sometimes too. So I reach out to mentors, and I have old friends from old centers, old psychiatrists, psychologists that are still friends with me. We're just, you know, now that I'm on a different level in my life, it's just who I am. It's who I've become, and it's what I get to teach here now. That's why I built the Defender's Den. This is coming straight out of my head, out of my recovery. That's why I built it. That's why I built the Mindfulness Center. And it's not being utilized right now because we need more practitioners, and we need to get the word out and the awareness and such. But, you know, changing the lighting in here, because I still, you know, I have the misophonia from the, you know, from ADHD, hyperstimulus, and it's a lot. It's a lot to hold on to, and until you build in the structures to not say, I need this safety behavior to cover it up. It's like, no, I can cope with it. I can learn how to live with it. But before, the world was just so loud, and I was so angry, and I was so locked in, and I didn't know what was going on. I remember when I was in college, I came back from the service and went to college, and I was staying with my dad, and I came into his den one day, and I said, there's something fucking wrong with me. Like, and I was pointing at my head. I'm like, something's wrong with me. And I didn't know that it was like all this trapped trauma. And once I learned how to process that and talk to my parts, and just, man, I could go on all day. But like, I am so grateful for the VA for putting me through over $1 million worth of treatment. Seriously, I had to do that list in one of the centers. They're like, how much have you had to spend on your recovery? And that's what it took for me to get well. And I know a lot of people aren't privileged to that, but I needed it or I was going to die. I'm so grateful I'm alive today. I cannot believe I'm alive today. Honestly, truly. It took strength from some other source to get me here for this reason, this cause, this why I'm here today. It's a gift.
I'm grateful you're here today too. So thank you for all you do, all you've been through, and all you're going to continue to do. Could you take me through your time in the Navy?
Yeah. So like I said, so I went to boot camp in 2002, and holy shit. I got off the bus and they like ripping out my hair. I had long hair and they cut it off like right at the middle of my ears. I was so pissed. I hated it. I'm like, I'm ugly. You know, I was overweight when I was in Alaska. I was like 215 pounds and I wanted to join, and my recruiter, he's like, you gotta get down to 183. I was like, how the F am I going to do that? And, you know, my grandma had, she couldn't use the bathroom. She was like really constipated from all the medication and stuff. So she was like drinking these laxatives. So I was like drinking all her laxative bottles, and I was wearing, you know, garbage bags and running around the block and riding my bike to and from town and everything, and to lose the weight. So I finally got in, and you know, and I had like an eating disorder and everything when I was growing up, and I was, you know, self-harming and stuff. So I don't know how I passed the psych exam, but I went to MEPS in Washington and then left from there. Boot camp was crazy. I was the A-Rock. I got to do the cadence, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, you know. Okay. So, lockstep. We got a Marine out here laughing. He knows. So I did that for, I lost my voice at the end and I became the Master at Arms, and, you know, we won best division and all this stuff. And I think that's when I got my first source of pride in boot camp. It was getting through battle stations was really cool. And then I went across the street to seamanship training and got to go out to Chicago and do all that. I've never left the West Coast. So that was the first time I got to experience the world on my own and all that. And then I got my orders right out of there and flew to Africa. So it took 25 hours to get there. You know, we hit a couple of places along the way. And, you know, we stopped in Bahrain for a while. And I was like, what the fuck? Where am I? What is this? I was 19 years old. I had no idea about the world at all whatsoever. So from there, you know, I went to Africa and we went to Djibouti. And from there, I got on a little helicopter or a big helicopter, but it flew us out to the Indian Ocean. And first time I've ever been on a helicopter. And it's like full of all this freight and mail and stuff they're taking out to the ship. And you can't see anything. It's just blue. And then there's like this little gray thing. And we're getting closer and closer to it. And it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we land on the ship. And this small little Filipino woman grabs my sea bag. And she's like, welcome to hell. That's the first thing I heard when I landed on the ship. And we went from the aft end straight to the fore end. And all the way down all these ladders and everything to the female berthing, a 99 female berthing. And she showed me my coffin rack, which, you know, I learned about in boot camp, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I was like, holy shit. Okay, so this is it. I was seasick for a while, and the girl I was in boot camp with, she came out to the ship with me. So at least I knew somebody. And then I was a seaman. I was a deck seaman, and that was wild. So we're out there in the thick of it, you know, essentially on the front lines. We're the 2nd Fleet Command ship. So there was a lot going on. Just immediately had to start getting qualifications. And my master chief of my division, he called me Super Seaman Pogue, because I was just like I was getting all my qualifications. And my officer of the deck, she kind of took me under her wing, and she's like, I want you to get this qual and this qual. And I became master helmsman. That was awesome, because I got to drive us in and out of ports. I got to all of our underway replenishments. I was at the helm. And when we crossed the pond, when we came back from deployment, I got to drive the ship through all that too. And I got my surface warfare device as a seaman recruit on the ship. That was huge. That was a lot of work. And I had this moment, my packet, after I got pinned, I took it off. I went to the aft end of the ship and I was like, did one of those Eureka moments. And I was like, Eureka! I threw it all in the water. That was fun. There was a lot of watch standing, a lot of just hypervigilance, and got to play with all the toys and weapons and stuff. It was cool. And yeah, when I came home, the ship went MSC, so I had to get new orders. I went to Pensacola, became an aviation mechanic. I got new orders to the West Coast. Then I went on another deployment in Japan. I worked on P-3 Charlie Orions. My dad was a spook in the Navy. He did submarine warfare, and I got to do anti-submarine warfare. So it's kind of cool to have that all come full circle. I got to go to a base that he was at in Pensacola, and also I went to Guam. He was in Guam as well. That was kind of cool, and just kind of living the legacy there. I loved working on the airplanes. That was awesome. I got my air warfare device in Japan, or before we went to Japan, and then I became someone who helped other people get their devices. And then I just kept getting more and more qualifications, and I got in trouble a lot. I had a mouth, but I was like, I don't know. I was mech. I was like one of 3 women in the ADAM department that were, enlisted. So that was kind of wild.
What led to your decision getting out of the Navy?
Well, I came back from that deployment, and I, had to endure military sexual trauma, and I lost rank again, and then I could not get my head right. I called my dad, and he came up there. He did one tour of my squadron, and but I was working, and everybody was pissed, and I was like, I'm sorry, sir, but you got to go. You can't be here right now. I got to get to work. Thank you for showing up. But I called him and I said, I don't know if I can stay in. My command's not really compassionate towards what happened to me. And so I had to make a decision whether I wanted to stay there wearing a scarlet letter on people who weren't being charged for what happened to me. And I just didn't know how to respond to life because I was doing really well. I thought I was awesome. And then that just kind of took my light away. I didn't know what to do. And my brothers were working in the Seattle area. I was stationed in Whidbey Island, Washington. So my brothers were all construction and ironworking and stuff. And they're like, why don't you just get out? Your time's done. Why don't you just get out, come work with us, and we'll grandfather you in. We'll get you to journeyman status as an ironworker. So I walked up to sign my papers with my command master chief, who loved me, and I was in the retirement ceremony for my command master chief. He gave me his anchors, which is like a huge deal. And if you're not like a petty officer first class, it's like unheard of, right? And he's like, whether you stay in or get out, you deserve these. And I still have them. And I remember that day. And his white gloves opened up. I just started bawling. Because he was there for me when I went to captain's mast, and he had my back the whole fucking time. Like, he had my back. I love that dude. And I walked up there with my after he retired, I got close with my new command master chief, and he walked me up there to sign my papers, and I was just bawling. And I said, what about all of these systems that I put into place and all this work that I'm doing and all these things that I've built? Because I was there 12 hours a day. I mean, I was just like always on. I've always been like this, just always on, trying to do more all the time. And I said, what am I going to do about who's going to do? And he's like, oh, we'll just get someone to do it. We'll get someone else to do it. Like, my existence didn't fucking matter there. And that is kind of where I felt the pain. I was like, and that's why I started crying. I'm like, it didn't even fucking matter. Like, I don't even matter. Didn't matter. All of it did not fucking matter. They're like, well, we'll just get the next person to do it. Like, it's like, you don't matter as a person. And so I went and...
that's not true, right?
I know that's not true, but that's how I felt when I was all of 23 years old.
Yeah, I can see it.
And, yeah. still very, very hurtful that, that happened to me and that my career was destroyed. I was going to be a lifer. I wanted to be the MCPON, the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy. That's what I wanted to be. That's where I wanted to go. That's why I was hanging out with the Master Chiefs, and I wanted to be an officer as well. And I had a bad relationship when I was on the ship, and he totally broke my heart. But I was like 20 and in love and all this shit. And when I went to school in Pensacola, he cheated on me and shit. So I was like, I never went back to Virginia. I asked my detailer, I'm like, can you give me orders somewhere else? And then they sent me to fucking Washington, where I'm from. I'm like, damn, you couldn't go to Hawaii or Germany or something. So anyway, it all happens for a reason, right?
Did you ever think back that your purpose for joining the Navy was to excel the way you did, however, not to be a lifer, but to get out and do exactly what you're doing now, to make sure other people never feel the way you felt or have to go through the same experiences that you went through alone?
I choose to see it like that, because if I don't, I'm going to go fucking crazy.
Absolutely.
But yeah, for whatever reason, I have this power, this voice that I found that took me a long time to find. And now I get to use it to help other people.
Before we jump into all the great things you're doing now, I need to touch on another struggle point for sure. How was the transition?
It sucked. It sucked for a really long time. I went to work with my brothers, did some ironworking, and didn't really work out. So I went home to Southeast Washington, and I was just lost for a while. Those guys like work hard, play hard, fighting, fucking, working. That's what they did. Okay. And that's what I got into. I started getting into drugs, started drinking really hard. I was drinking away my pain. I was hanging around with unhealed individuals who were also drinking out their shit. So it was just like a perfect storm. And none of us were good for each other. And, they all have their own stories, and they're all doing a lot better now. But we were all pretty messed up back then. So, I went home, and I just, the weight came back like my fucking second class said it would. He's like, what happens when people get out of the military, right? They get fat. I was like, that's not going to happen to me, because I was like 143 pounds solid muscle. I felt good. And then it just all started coming back. And I was really depressed, and I was hiding it a lot in the bottle and everything. So I worked in the trades for a while. I went from ironworking to pipe fitting. I joined the pipe fitters apprenticeship, and then I joined the millwrights apprenticeship, and did a couple of those things. And I worked for my dad for a while. He's been running small businesses my whole life. So ran his coffee shop for a while, and then I fell in love with the culture and the art of coffee, and did that for a really, really long time. And I ran restaurants, cafes, and bars, and bartended for a while, got drunk for a while, was in and out of jail for a long time. For about 6 years, I was in and out of jail for fighting and DUIs and infractions of whatever kind, disorderly conduct, just a loose cannon, just totally a lost person. I got thin again thanks to pharmaceutical street drugs, and that it was just like it's all kind of blurred over, and it was a lot of hot mess. And when I went to the millwright apprenticeship, it was at the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory at the Pacific National Lab in Richland, Washington, which is right next door to the WSU Extension Campus in the Tri-Cities. And I fell in love at that the LIGO Center with the physics and the science. Just it provoked me to do something different. I didn't really like what I was doing. It was just, turning wrenches forever and moving. I mean, it's a great, you got paid a lot, and you have to be smart about it and stuff. It just I wasn't feeling it. And I didn't really want to show up for it. So I went to school. I told my dad, I'm like, I'm going to use my GI Bill. And I did. And I did 6 years in and out. I got really woke my first and second year. Like woke, like because I was reading these books that were talking about the war that I just came back from, and I had no idea what was behind all of it. So I'm in school learning all this stuff, and it just blew my fucking mind. And, my PTSD, I finally stopped. I started settling down. I wasn't like loaded as much. I was, not in jail anymore. And everything started coming up for me. And not only what happened in the service, but what happened in childhood, it all just came crashing on me. And relationships were just back and forth. I was just really unhealthy. I didn't know who I was or where I was in the world, or I didn't know anything. I felt so naive. I felt so worldly and naive at the same time. And then I felt like a little girl again, like a lost little girl again. And I, started going, I was sent to treatment. 2013, I started my treatment journey. I put the bottle down and started to listen. And it took like 3 times before I actually got it. And then I would get a couple years or a couple months or something. It was just back and forth for a long time. And then different centers for different ailments.
What would the Nicole today tell the Nikki that's getting out and transitioning out of the Navy? What would you tell her?
Move the fuck away from your family. They're not bad people inherently, right? It's just we are a product of our environment. And I was dependent on other people to help me figure out what I was going to do next. And unfortunately, those people didn't have, my best interests in mind, like for my future. And my dad's my hero. I love my dad. And, he would say all these things to me. I couldn't hear him back then. I would probably tell my younger self, listen to your dad.
I'll make sure my daughter hears that. All right. But no, thank you for sharing everything you've shared so far. It takes a lot of strength and a lot of growth that you went through. There's still pain there. I feel like there's always going to be pain, but we're learning how to handle it and cope differently. For me, I've been going through like therapy and getting help since I had to go as a child and I hated it. I was forced to go, and I think that damaged me more than it helped me because I was forced to go to therapy. But more recently, when I'm choosing to go to therapy on my own, I've recognized that I never put in the work. For the longest time, I didn't do the homework. I thought that 1 hour session once a week, twice a week, or once a month, twice a month, or however often I went was going to be enough to heal me. But that's not the case whatsoever. We actually have to go home and implement the homework, especially when it gets hard, when we go through a new breakup, when our job doesn't go our way or whatever, and we're ready to just throw it all in. That's when we got to reflect back on all that homework that our therapists have taught us or we've learned on our own and that. But again, I didn't do the homework for a long time. And I'm like, what is going on? And I feel like the more I went to therapy, the more I was set back because I wasn't doing the homework. So I feel like I got all these skills and all this knowledge now, but nothing's working. All these prescriptions, they're not working. They're not helping me. But truthfully, I wasn't helping myself. I wasn't listening to who I needed to be listening to. I was around the wrong people, and I wasn't doing the work myself.
Yeah. Man, I'm have like flashbacks from all my treatment centers. The VA had me like misdiagnosed, overprescribed for a really long time, dude. Like I was messed up. You're in and out of a fog, on and off the bottle, trying to cope with the brain zaps that come from coming off of the pharmaceuticals that they have you on. And I'm like, I don't feel like this diagnosis fits what's going on with me. All the while, I had this underlying ADHD. All the while. I mean, my dad had me on like sleeping pills when I was in high school because he was like, you need to slow down. He said that. He still says that to me. All in my entire life, slow down, slow down, slow down. Never having been diagnosed when I was younger, and then having that being the underlying thing this whole way through. So when I come out, they're like, you got PTSD, you got MST, you got, comorbidities up the wazoo. And I was like, so you're just going to medicate me to turn me off so I don't show up in the world talking with my hands and being really loud and being silly and moving really fast, because that is, a product of younger trauma.
Yeah.
And also just how my brain functions, right? So I was on and off the meds for a long time, and I'm trying to pay attention to the providers, and they're like, you need to go home and do this work. You need to practice this out in the world. You can't just, know these things. You have to implement them in your daily life. You have to learn how to use your talking boundaries with other individuals. You have to set your boundaries. You have to set structures with yourself, routines with yourself. You have to reparent yourself. And it took a long time to do that. I've had to do a couple cycles in specific places to really get that. And it is about doing the work. I mean, you have to show up for yourself. People can lay all the tools at your feet, but it's up to you to pick them up.
You can lead the horse to water. You can't make them drink it, right?
Yeah.
I think a huge part of that is, and correct me if I'm wrong for you, right? But for me, I think a lot of it is getting my ego and pride out of the way, right? Because I remember going to a 2-week program called Home Base out in Boston. The Wounded Warrior program sent me to it. And a couple of people I spoke to, they're like, oh, it's your first one? Yeah, you're going to go through a lot of these. You're going to go through a lot of different mental health programs. And I was like, that doesn't sound right. That's not going to be me. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to learn what I need from this one and go on. Did I learn what I needed? Absolutely. Did I apply it? Absolutely not, because I thought I was too good or that it would come easier or natural. But that's not the case.
And it's hard when you do have to go back and you have to hear the same shit. You're like, ugh, I've already heard this. Well, bitch, you put yourself back here. So I don't talk to myself like that. It's just lingo. But I'm like, you put yourself back here. So like, what are you going to take from it? I mean, I'm as hard-headed as they come, to say the least. So, I mean, I had to get really raw and honest with myself. I'm like, how many times do you want to fall? I mean, because each fall was equally hurtful.
Yeah.
Like every time I fall, it's a soul pain.
Because we're doing it to ourselves now. It's not somebody doing something to us.
I had to stop blaming other people. I had to stop blaming my perpetrators in my childhood and whoever the F came into my life. It's up to me to put myself in responsible situations now.
Isn't it wild how much we play the victim? Everybody plays the victim without even realizing that's what we're doing.
And people get defensive at that because they're unknowing. And you're like, well, I can't, judge people, but for the grace of God, there go I, right? Like that was me. Don't judge somebody. Like you don't know what it took them to show up in the world today. They have no idea what it took for you to show up in the world today. That's what I have to tell myself. I'm like, be kind because, girl, you have been through it. And how many people were so kind to you when you were such a dick? I mean, I was a total B for a really long time. And I was crazy, man. I legit felt crazy. And I would show up in the world in all kinds of ways, very inconsistent. People were walked on eggshells around me. And I was just angry and sad and had this huge rage in my chest. I was explosive and I didn't want to hurt people, right? So then I wanted to start hurting myself, and I did for a long time.
Absolutely.
I don't want that for anybody.
For sure.
I don't want anyone to have to be out there as long as I was being inflicting that on themselves when there is an easier, softer way, and you just have to give yourself grace and compassion. And that's really hard to do when you feel all of those heavy, that weight of the less than, and then other people are coming at you. It's like, stop telling your story to people who you know are going to harm you. Like, you got to learn who to talk to, learn who to trust. And that's like in a sacred space of a therapist's room, right? That's where I choose to share a lot of what's going on with me. And then I have a few select individuals that I share things with. I can share what I'm sharing here today on the show, but there's a lot of other stuff that I will not share because I know that would be injurious to me, right? So I think you have to be really self-aware, to sit with yourself in meditation and to journal. Journaling is not what people think it is. That self-reflection from you're taking your daily inventory. It's like, really be honest with yourself. What came up for me? What came up for me today? Where did I go against my values? These are things I say to myself. And where can I celebrate myself? What am I grateful for? I don't complain in my journal unless I'm drunk, right? I do. I have my stacks of journals, every 100 pages, there's a bad day in there. And you can see she's all drunk and she's saying all this shit. And then the next 100 pages is all beautiful, poetic, and it's got all the cards and drawings and everything. And then the 100 pages later, it's like this bad day. I can see that. This so I think if we go back in our lives and we look at where we were, how far we've come, maybe next time it was 200 pages later that I had a bad day. to go back and look at your progression and saying, like I did yesterday, I'm like, I am a lot, I got so fast this time. I'm so strong. I learned a lot, and I can do this. I can show up, and I don't have to be institutionalized because I had a bad day. Because back in the past, if I had a bad day, I'm like, that's it. I need to go back to treatment. You need to lock me up. You need to put me on another med. Because that's what I was told that I needed, until I had to figure out what my needs and wants were, what I needed, what I wanted for myself, and what it was going to take for me to get those desires. I think sitting with yourself, having that self-awareness, reflecting as often as possible is where you're going to find the key that's going to unlock what it is for you, that's going to allow you to achieve anything in life, whether it's just love from a partner, or, the next rung up the ladder in your business, or however, you want to make a dent in the world. Because I think we all ultimately want to leave something behind.
Absolutely. I think a lot of it is, let's see if my brain will let me think of what I wanted to say again. Yep, I lost it. But yeah, this happens a lot, but it's been, perfect. I think recognizing that we're going to have bad days and accepting that is part of it that helps us cope and get through things easier, right? We all know bad days happen. And I thought for the longest time that once I was healed or working on myself, that once I had a bad day, I wasn't going to have bad days anymore. But that's not the case. It's how you react during that bad day. And I think I heard it from Deion Sanders, or one of the football players, right? But he said, I don't have bad days. I may have a bad hour, a bad minute, bad couple hours, but I don't allow it to affect me the whole day. And that's something I've been trying to focus on when I start to have a bad day, is not letting it sit with me for the whole day, that I'm able to work through it and get over it, or find a solution so it doesn't ruin my entire day.
Yeah. Alex Hormozy said that recently. It was like, if you're in a bad mood, you can choose to stay in that bad, you can have that bad moment, create an entire bad day for you. Or you can be like, okay, I had a bad moment, but I'm going to choose to have a good day out of it. If you can choose to have a bad day, you can choose to have a good day. Like, people don't need to know that that's the shit that you're dealing with today.
Absolutely.
I like to show up with an intention every day. Like, I'll pull a card out of like my, Gabby Bernstein deck, or, something like that, or I'm a badass deck or something. And it's just an intention. It's something to, like, it's a goal for today. Like, I don't have to have a million things to do today. I don't have to have all of these, all of my stuff in my head. I'm like, I have to do it. No, just say, did I do this one thing I wanted to accomplish today? And I got a little dopamine reward from it. And I'll probably achieve a lot more. But if I know that I can do this one thing, and it's a lot of it's surrounding on, being spiritually centered, like knowing that I am not like the end all be all of everyone, and being higher than, greater than, more than anybody or anything, that I'm here to better myself and to reflect that out into the world. And hopefully other people can hear the message and glean from it what lands with them, take what you need, leave the rest, but like show up as some kind of a positive source in people's life. There's a Buddhist prayer that I love, and it's in every one of my journals. It said, with every breath I take today, I vow to be awake. And with every step I take, I vow to take with a grateful heart, so that I may see with eyes of love into the hearts of all I meet, to ease their burden with when I can, and touch them with a smile of peace. And that is my prayer to the world. May all beings know loving kindness, because there was a long stretch of time where I didn't have that for myself, and I couldn't give it to other people. And the way that I felt, I know a lot of other people are feeling that. And it's the crux of why I'm doing this, because that pain, like you said, I've turned it into something positive, or I'm trying to,
You are.
I want that to be reflected out in the world, that you can turn it around and use it as a force for good, instead of holding on to it, allowing it to be there, allowing it to pass. It comes and goes in waves, but I don't have to hold on to it and make that my identity anymore.
So let's talk about your triumphs then. Tell me where we're at and what we're doing here, or what you're doing here.
We're offering hope. I built the stage for Veteran Voices so we can do shit like this. So people can come up here and express themselves however they need to, like no judgment. To build a coalition, a true coalition of other organizations, we can throw it all here in one center. So when the person who's brave enough to walk in that door, and you know, I both know that pride stops us from doing a lot of things. When they walk in, they're like, all right, I'm done. I don't know what else to do. I don't know where else to go. I just need to bridge this gap. I don't want to have to send them all over the valley to go to one of the 4,000 other veteran organizations in the state to go to get their needs met, right? If we can build a community, a coalition here of all of our partners that are doing great work. So when the person walks in the door here, we're the only landing place that you can physically walk into in the valley here. They can walk in here and look at the board or talk to the case management team and say, this is what's coming up for me. It's like, all right, bet. You go to this person right here. I know exactly, we'll get you lined up here. If I can't give you direct services today, if we can't, with our workforce development team, with our VSOs, with what we're doing over here in the lounge, if we can't help calm down your nervous system, help you recenter yourself so that we can get your goals met, the ones that are closest to the boat, let's get those met first. You know, fire, food, water, right? Let's shelter, let's get you taken care of there so we can give you this long-lasting capacity. So we want to build that capacity back up within the individual, showing them their strength again. I know you're in pain. Let's use that to your advantage. How can we overcome this? Because you are very capable of overcoming it. You've already served in the military. You've already done all of these. You have to remind people of what they're capable of, right? By sharing your story with them. So when they walk in the door and they try to, pull one over on me, I'm like, you don't know who you're talking to, son. You don't know. So I sit down with them. And because I've had those conversations with people, it's helped a lot. And we've had a couple successes recently that just brought me and my chief of staff to tears. So that's what we're building here is a coalition. I want to reach out to all of our community partners and have them bring all their information in here. Cynthia Vargas just came in from, and we have a VSO in the house today too. People just show up and they want to see what we're doing. And she saw me a year ago and she's like, this place has completely changed. She's like, I'm so proud of you. And she goes, I want to talk with you more about it tomorrow. And because I was getting ready to come on the show. And so pulling in big players like that, I'm going to be speaking with Kelly Mills next week. I also will be speaking to the senators, some legislators, some lobbyists who I'm already talking to. And we want to make sure that people know that this place is here because 80% of the people that walk in the door said they never knew this place existed. So I've also built the East Valley Women Veterans Group. That's what I needed when I landed here. There wasn't a women's group, so I just, with a couple of the women, we started this thing, and it's slowly building. And I put the female silhouette of a service member saluting, so that women knew that this is a safe place for them, a landing place for them, kind of like a beacon, if you will, like a Superman or Batman signal. You're welcome here, but we still serve 90% males. We're still looking for the women that are out there suffering, and women are, veteran suicide is out of control. One is too many, right? And, with me losing a friend recently, and then not even too long ago, I lost another friend, and it happens all the time, and it's happening to all of us. And what we're trying to do here when we say we prevent veteran suicide, that's because we give them a place to speak about their pain. Where can you go to feel safe enough to speak about your pain, to take the weight off? Because they say a burden shared is a burden halved. So when you share it, you lessen it, right? So let's talk to each other about what's going on. You help other people by sharing your story. So that's what I want to offer here. I really want the den to take off, and it's not happening. So building the awareness piece about it and having more events like this. Thank you for showing up and using this space so that we can, get some people in the door so we can start sharing our stories. The Resource Center has been here for 8 years, and it almost got let go of. So I revived it, and as of July 1, United Way, Azura, let go of the initiative altogether. Now I'm the CEO and I have no money, personally or organizationally. So I'm out there writing grants. I'm out there looking for donors. I'm always doing these pitches. I'm trying to go to everything, everywhere to bring awareness to what we're doing here to get the funding that we need. Our budget isn't even that big, and it's so hard to get people to donate. But like I said, there's 4,000 other groups out there. And I don't think we're duplicating efforts. I just think we're in a special little niche here that's not being seen. And like the group I had on the show yesterday, they're like, there's a lot of good groups out there that just don't have the awareness, and then they're being dissolved. I'm not going to let that happen here. It's not going to happen. I have faith, and we have support from the Southwest Veterans Chamber of Commerce. They've contributed to our suicide prevention program, and I know all too well what it's like to be on that edge. And like I said, if you know what it feels like to be in this space, you don't want anyone else to have to feel like that.
Absolutely.
So,
So how can he be found? How can the Defender's Den, Azura, be found?
You can go to azuravets.org, and you can find us on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook, all under Azura Veterans Coalition.
Thank you for having us here. It was an honor to be able to come and not only share your story, but share your Defender's Den and be able to hopefully save some lives.
We are saving lives.
Absolutely.
I know that 100%. And every day I come in here and I get to hear a success or somebody walk away with a smile, and it's my why. It's why I get out of bed. It's my purpose, and it's what makes my day, and it's what I get to do and I choose to do. And I'm really grateful I got to meet you and you came on my show, and for now you having me opened up, and I'm like, now it's all out there. So if I can be bold and brave and go through what I went through and be on the other side of it and continue to do good work and stand on her own and recalibrate and rise faster and faster, so can you. And I believe in you. You're not alone.
Absolutely. So, Nicole, is there any saved rounds, anything I missed that you would like to talk about?
I'd like to talk about how our male counterparts can show up better for our female service members.
All right.
I think we could all do a better job at helping each other, vice versa. And I think we just need to have more groups that are integrated. So, and I know there's a time and place to have this segregation, but I think we need to integrate more and share that more, because I know males go home to their wives and women go home to, whoever your significant other is. We all cross the sexual platform there. And I think we need to understand each other better and know that we're not a threat, to either one, because your story is so similar to mine and I resonate with you so much, and you're such a great person and open-hearted. And there was a long time where I could not sit across from a male and have a conversation like this. So that shows growth in me, and I appreciate you having the space to hear me out, and with the love and honor that you have.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for your strength. But I feel like what I'm trying to do, and I'm doing it at the Sandbox, right? Like, we got to stop judging everybody by their cover, because what's in there is what's going to connect us all together, right? And a lot of us are connected from our childhood and the traumas we went through, the thought processes, the struggles, all of that. And it reconnects us with one another again, because we're like, okay, maybe we're not so different. They're just handling their shit differently, right? So I look forward to seeing you at the Sandbox as well.
Yeah. I just want to say one more thing on what you just said there. Childhood trauma is something that it's ingrained in your nervous system. It's going to take a really long time to unwind that, to figure it out for yourself, right? To heal from and to grow from and learn from and give back. I know I've said on the show before that you got to let go of a lot of things and move on to the next. But it's not that all-encompassing like you tell people, like, that happened in the past, let it go, move on, right? I think we need to lessen that message when we say it to people. Say it in a different way. Give it, because that's a lot easier said than done, and it takes a lot of hard work. And yes, we should let go of the past and move on, but it still holds a place with us. And if it keeps coming up for somebody, then maybe you should be there to listen to them. Maybe there's something more that needs to be said there, and to not just be like, get the fuck over it and move on. That's not who we are today. It's not helpful.
Instead of telling them what to do, hold the space for them to do it.
Just let them tell their story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I needed to say that for myself and to the viewers, because too often we're like, just get over it, move on.
And it's not that easy. And like you said, you can get over it, but then your body holds it too. So we have to physically and emotionally work through it. But if we don't have that space or those people around us that are willing to allow us to be emotional or a bitch or an asshole in the moment when we need to be, then we're never going to be able to grow and get through it. That's why it's so important to find your people in your circle. And I was reminded of this today, but like, if you look at your 5 closest people to you, you can pretty much tell how you're going to be where you're going to be at, right? So we always have to find people that are at the level we want to be or higher, so that way they can help pull us up versus us trying to dig everyone else up. I have a hard time of that because I want to pull everyone up with me, but I have enough weight on me. Now I'm going to try to carry everyone else, and I'm going to try to please them to get to where I need to be. I'm never going to get there. So I need to cut some ties, take some step backs, and refine my circle again.
100%. We don't meet people, we meet their traumas.
Absolutely.
And if you meet someone who has all that going on, you're like, maybe it's not the right time for us to be in each other's lives in whatever manner that they are. But I wish you well and loving kindness, and I hope you well on your journey. But that's your journey, and that's that boundary thing.
Absolutely. That's a great note to leave it on. So thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Joshua.
My pleasure.